As you may remember, this flower was the first video on this topic, and this is the second. And there will be another one appearing somewhere here. Because there are some technical details which may help in this method of making resist colored. The usual kit is paper towels, a palette, and a round brush with a thin tip. Today there will be only two dyes, emerald green and magenta, and water of course. For the contour of the future flower I'll use green dye. I spread it on the brush and feel that brush should be dried. Now it's better, but tonally it's too light, whereas I would like to make this color expressive and active. Today I want to play with the resist color and make it controversial. My initial idea was to make the resist, or rather its color, a very active, decorative element. But things didn't go according to my plan. I chose not the right pattern for this. Later I will explain why. And in the process of making this video, my idea transformed into another one. And this is, what if the color of the resist doesn't match the painting? That is, they don't fit together. And how this can be fixed. And plus, I would like to elaborate more on the width of the initial outline that we color with dye. I mean, can it be wider than the resist line, or if so, what are the nuances to consider? I'm making up the drawing as I go along, but I made a little sketch like this beforehand to make it easier for me in the process. And now, for the sake of experimentation, I deliberately make the line wider. And since it's uneven in tone, I would like it to be darker in general. So I darken some of the lines again, because some of them are very light. And I'm going to paint the leaves outline with magenta. As I mentioned before, the first idea was to make the outline a decorative element, to make a green resist for the pink flower and a crimson resist for the green leaves, and this contrast would be so expressive and vivid that it would be the main thing in this image. I don't know how to explain. I mean that not the drawing would play some role, but it would be this contradictory combination of resist colors that would fully attract our attention. And that's why I chose the complementary colors, green and red. This very spread out outline should be organized a little bit. But that's just to say that if your outline has blown a lot, you can fix it when it dries. If you remember, in the first two videos I said that it's preferable for the resist line to be exactly on the dye line, and it's desirable that they coincide in width, but it doesn't always work out that way. The dye can still spread more or not spread at all, and the line drawn with dye tends to change a bit in width, while the width of the resist line remains quite stable. What happens when the resist line is a little off to the side of the dye line, or is a little wider? And I'll show it to you when I start dyeing. And of course, when the dye line is much wider than the resist line, we are guaranteed to hit the original contour. But how will the dye that's left next to the resist behave? We're about to find out it. But while I was applying the resist, I smeared it with my hand in that spot. It wasn't planned, but a good chance to show how it can be masked. I'll just put some similarly sized dots next to it. And to justify their presence here, I'll draw them in some other places. Although, of course, stylistically they are unnecessary. But how else can I fix it? Any ideas? Please leave them in the comment section. I'm going to paint with the most usual scheme. I wet the lightest areas with water and then bring in the color. And here I forgot to trace with the resist. It's okay, the green dye spreads out and everything looks quite convincing. So it's not a problem if the contour line is also much wider than the resist line. The dye just spreads nicely and that's it. But I was going to paint this place a richer crimson anyway. And here you can see up close how things look when the primary path is wider than the resist, and when the resist doesn't match the primary contour. This white color, even though it's not much, is still a bit annoying, and that's why it's better to hit the primary contour with the resist. On a light colored flower, it was not so crucial, but on a dark flower, it definitely looks bad. And the leaves. If you remember, I was going to paint them green. And these halos might appear if the tone of green is light enough. The second leaf I paint with a saturated color, and these halos are just not visible. They are lost. To be honest, I don't really like the way it looks. Unfortunately, I'm only now realizing that for the idea of making the outline color a decorative element, I need to use a different approach and maybe a different pattern. The painting should be flat, not three-dimensional. And maybe another time I'll be able to show you a better version of my idea with a very active, contrasting contour. But now I'm going to start fixing all that. I just decided to mix my two colors and I get a gray color like a plumage of a dove and try to add that color to the flower. It's starting to look more organic. And if I cover the background with this color, it makes the image even more whole. And let's say these halos of crimson can be overlaid with a pure saturated magenta. And as always, I thank all of you who watch my videos, especially those of you who watch until the end without skipping, and who leave comments, who put likes, because it all matters. And thank you very much again. Well, now I feel that the luminosity of the flower is inappropriate here. So I'll cover the whole flower with a blue-gray color. And yes, this video didn't go as planned, but I think I managed to get the most out of what I had. The image ended up even kind of to be elegant. So I wish you the best of luck with your silk painting, and I'll see you.